Recovery Revolution.
My name is Richie Tannerhill, and I'm a person in long-term recovery.
Hi, my name is Elvin Peace.
My name is Dolores Taylor. I've been a recovered addict for about 26 years.
Hello, my name is Steve Steen. I'm a student in long-term recovery at Southwestern Community College.
My name is Bill Hollingshead, Chief of Police of the Waynesville Police Department.
Greg Christopher.
Today, by the grace of God, after more than 10 years, I no longer have to use drugs and alcohol to change the way that I think and feel. It means stability for my family. It means that I'm impacting my community in a positive way. And, earlier in my recovery, I had a 2-page definition of what it meant. Today, I'm able to sum that up into one word. It just means more. Not so much the more of the material stuff, but the more in here. I realize that life's a journey, and I continue to grow constantly, man. And that's a gift. So that's what recovery means to me. Remaining teachable, suspending judgment, staying open, forgiveness and grace.
Learning a new way to live. Learning more about myself, a new way to live and self every single day, because as a friend of mine told me, it's constantly unfolding and changing with each environment. And learning how to find a community that you can find yourself in and be a part of.
Recovery means I can live my life free of drugs and be whole without drugs. Being able to be happy, to be healthy, not having that survival mechanism going on in my brain, with the drugs being the thing that I'm needing to survive.
I think that it's more of an internalized fear, kind of portrayed by other people, looked down upon, being judged for our actions of what we've done, and not really looked at kind of where we've come, how far we've come. I think that's the number one factor, is getting past that internalized fear.
I think it has more to do with labels and how we have a tendency to label people. And the people in recovery carrying that label is very similar to like the term internalized oppression, where they will take that label, and it's told them enough times, a person in recovery, and then they carry it on the inside. And after a while, they become whatever that label was. So if they say it's bad, they become and project that bad that they've carried around. So they internalize that label or internalize that oppression.
Society and our communities always have that perception of you as an addict in the back of their minds, and you can overcome things, you can change your life and do all these things, but back in the corner there is that piece that you were an addict. So that's one of the stigmas of recovery. The other thing is that what I see in our community is the people go into recovery and they're really wanting to make this change, but in our communities, it's a subconscious thing that people are still being treated as addicts. They're not having a hard time finding housing, having a hard time finding jobs. People are pushing them to make a fresh start, but there's so many obstacles to allowing them to make a fresh start.
Once an addict, always an addict. Thief, liar, junkie, those types of things. And I think stigma is just that nasty word that has kept recovery in the shadows for so long. And that's why we're working hard to bring it out of the shadows into the light where it needs to be. Really to create more opportunities for others to achieve long-term recovery. The thing is there's a stigma that says most people don't recover, maybe 10%, and that's just not accurate. Because see, when people have the right supports in place, when they have healthy supports in place during treatment and after treatment, 85% long-term treatment. And treatment is not prescriptive. It could be anything. It could be a faith-based program. It could be yoga, just whatever their pathway is. But that engagement with that connection, because that is the opposite of that addiction. It's not sobriety, it's connection, man. We're all looking for a connection. And I know that those healthy supports makes a huge difference.
I think it's been an ongoing process for law enforcement to become a recovery ally in the community, but through especially the last several years with the opioid crisis, law enforcement has come to the realization that we will never arrest our way out of this problem. And for us to make a positive impact and a positive difference in not only the lives of the individuals that are affected by addiction, but also to the entire community, is to help those individuals receive the treatment that they need to break that cycle of addiction and to become productive members of the community. And I think myself, as well as other law enforcement leaders across our state, have come to the realization that it's very important for us to be recovery allies, to support their efforts through helping them gain employment, helping them gain housing, whatever the case may be, again, with the ultimate goal of stopping that cycle of addiction. So again, it helps the community as a whole as well as the individual that's facing the problem.
I know that if these inmates do not recover, then they are going to continue in this same kind of life that brought them to jail in the first place. And it is very, very important that we do what we can to help these inmates while that they're here realize that yes, that there is recovery, and recovery is something that can happen. If they want it, I want to be able to try to help them. It's a spiritual issue with me. I believe in that very, very strongly, but it's also I want to see them get better so that they can go back to their families and be what that they are supposed to be. I tell these people all the time that no one is destined to be wearing an orange jumpsuit their entire life. That's not what God meant for them to be doing, and that's certainly not what I want to see happening in their life. So we support that hugely here.
I think one of the biggest things, and we started with our own department here and with our own officers here, is to break that stigma that often comes with those facing addiction. That we've seen individuals through all walks of life. Addiction is a problem that's affecting a lot of people in many, many professions and many walks of life, including our own. So we've come to the realization that this addiction is a problem that affects everyone, and the community can come together to realize that and to offer assistance for those that need help, that need a helping hand to break that cycle of addiction, whether it be working with them to gain adequate employment, to gain adequate housing, whatever the case may be. We're a full recovery ally in that regard as well.
I think our communities have got to accept the fact that there are issues within our communities when it comes to drug and alcohol. We have got to accept the fact that we do have an epidemic here, not only here in Haywood County, but Western North Carolina and our entire nation for that matter. Regardless of where I go and speaking to other law enforcement officers throughout our state and our nation, we all talk the same identical talk. We have an epidemic in this nation, and so we have got to grasp hold of that fact as communities in order to be able to come together and support people who need recovery. I believe in recovery programs as opposed to incarceration for the user. There's lots of differences between the users and the dealers of this illegal and illicit drugs. If you are a user, I think that, and a user only, I think that trying to help someone get into a recovery program is exactly what needs to happen.
You know, if you'd asked me this 15 years ago, I'd have said our job is arresting these people and putting them in prisons, and hopefully that they'll find the help that they need there. We know now that that's not something that happens on a regular basis. So I think law enforcement as a whole, we are looking at ways that we can help stop that cycle of addiction. We at the Waynesville Police Department are looking at a program now where we're ready to implement in the coming months called LEAD, which is Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion. When officers come in contact with individuals that are out here on the street that are committing low-level crimes simply to fuel that addiction, we know that just simply arresting them is not going to solve the problem. Putting them in jail for a short period of time is not going to solve that problem. So what we're looking to do is to take that same individual that's facing their addiction, that have committed these low-level crimes, and instead of putting them back into the criminal justice system, we would put them into a system of treatment. And hopefully that the treatment that can be provided there then can help break that cycle. And in addition to the treatment for the substance abuse itself, we're looking at assisting them in gaining adequate employment and also adequate housing. And I think between the three pillars of treatment, employment, and housing, we as law enforcement can help stop that cycle of addiction.
Law enforcement truly wants to try to help them here in Haywood County. We want them to know that they can come to us. I spend many hours a week on the phone with rehabilitation and recovery programs trying to help our inmates and others that call me that need help. And I want people to know, those type people, that people in law enforcement don't want you in our detention center. I would much rather see people that need that kind of help in a rehabilitation program.
I think one of the things that we have to break, that not only the stigma of law enforcement and others toward those facing addiction, but also at times the police are looked at as somebody that's there just to be the bad guy, that we're just there to put somebody in jail. But we do want to make a difference. We want to help not only the individual again, but the community as a whole. So I think if we just have that communication from those that are in the crisis situation they're in, that are facing the addiction they're facing, to be able to come in that front door and to talk to us and be of the understanding that we are here to help them, that we will help them find treatment if that's something that they need and want and desire. And just to look at law enforcement as another ally in the fight and not just as the bad guy that's here solely to put somebody in prison. I think if law enforcement works very proactively with their legislators, effective legislation is always key in helping stop some of these problems. Recently, law enforcement has partnered with some of our local legislators in the Attorney General's office here in North Carolina and legislated or at least introduced a bill called the STOP Act. And the STOP Act will help this issue in a number of different ways, including on the prevention end, where it puts some guidelines in for our prescribers as far as prescribing opioids in the future and how prescribers do that in the future. Also, it entails prescribers actually looking at a script history of a patient where they access the controlled substance reporting system and get a good history of opioid use for their patients, where they can look at this and see if somebody has been what we call doctor shopping and going from doctor to doctor, obtaining these pills, whether to fuel their own addiction or to sell them out here on the street. That will help us curb some of this problem immensely. It also has good, strong efforts on the enforcement side. And on the back side, it offers treatment. There's $20 million over 2 years in this bill to help people facing addiction to get the treatment and the help that they need. So I think law enforcement working with our legislators, working with those in Raleigh to help solve the problem is also key to this combating this epidemic.
I discovered meditation from day one of recovery. I participate in a program called Refuge Recovery. We are a community of individuals who have committed to using the practices of mindfulness, compassion, forgiveness, and generosity to heal the wounds that addiction has caused in our lives and the lives of our loved ones. It's a pretty simple program. We commit to a daily meditation practice. We complete a inventory process where we take a look at the suffering that addiction caused in our lives, in partnering with a mentor and sharing that information with them. And then we also commit to living an ethical lifestyle and participating in weekly meetings. Has been the contributing factor to my success in my personal recovery. We have 2 meetings currently in Jackson County, Tuesdays at 4 o'clock at Southwestern Community College in room 338 of the Balsam Building. And then also Thursday evenings at 5 p.m. we meet at Hillside Grind Coffee House on the campus of Western Carolina University. You can check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/Cullowhee Refuge Recovery.
I have ceremony at my house twice a month through the year. Then I also go on a vision quest once a year. I go on the mountain for 4 days with no food and no water. There's nobody else around. There's other people in strategic spiritual points on the mountain. So we're all placed in a certain pattern on the mountain. But you don't see anybody and you don't interact with anybody. You may hear somebody way over there. You know, a slight breeze will come through and that breeze will bring them, that person, you can hear them singing sometimes. But you're in isolation. You're up there to pray and meditate. And then I also have Sundance once a year. I usually do my vision quest in the spring and Sundances in the summer. And that's a 4-day dancing in the sun, no food and no water. Sometimes if the dancers are suffering really a lot, and if it's really, really hot and we're suffering, the medicine man will allow us to be given a cup, dipper. It's a dipper full of water. And then we go in the lodge and we pray to help ourselves stay strong in our prayers and our ceremony, because it's not about you. It's about humanity, and it's about the people and what's going on with the earth and the balance of life and all these kind of things. So that's what keeps me grounded and keeps me sober, and it's the key to my sobriety and my survival.
I co-facilitate a group called Stressed Out. Right now we have 2 different meetings, one being at Western, which is on Thursdays at between 4 and 5. And we're also fortunate enough to have one at Southwestern Community College on Mondays from 11:30 to 12:30. These are weekly meetings. And again, it's called Stressed Out. We take a more of an open approach to dealing with and teaching coping skills.
Take a look in the mirror and get real honest. Because if we're real honest, man, we all know we're in recovery from something. Whatever the worst thing we went through was the worst thing that we went through. And what happens is, because of stigma, we judge people. And the truth is, when you judge somebody, you ain't got no time left to love them. So meet them where they're at, but don't leave them where they're at.
We are the Southwestern Community College Human Services Program, and we are
Recovery Allies!